Hello, and welcome to today's edition of Rogue Reader Reviews. We're going to be talking about this book that's called The New Girl by Jillian Brooks, and it is the first book in a series of 8 called Wondergirls. That's the name of the series, and it's I guess somewhere between like a children's book and a middle grade novel. It's it's about 140 pages long. All the books are about the same size, and the story is about these 4 girls who are just starting middle school. So they're 11, 12 years old. So that's kind of, and like I've always heard that when it comes to writing for kids, at least your character should always be a couple of years older than your target audience. So I guess the target audience would be like 9, 10, 11 years old, maybe 12 or 13, depending on the audience. I don't know. I'm 22 and I just read this book, so clearly target audience is not an exact science. But I read the books for the first time when I was a little kid, but I only had, I think, 3 of the books in the series, and the first one was not one of them. So today was the first time I'd ever read this book. Even though I kind of knew the characters, I didn't really know where they came from, what their origin story was. We'll go with that term. And so basically, the book, like each book is told from the point of view of a different girl. I guess, I mean, I haven't read all 8 of them, but I'm guessing since there's 4 girls and 8 books that there's 2 written from each girl's point of view. I don't know. I will have to read the rest of them and find out. But so this book, the main character is a girl named Tracy who has grown up in Charleston, South Carolina, and she really loved her life there. She had a lot of friends. She lived right next to the beach, um, and I mean, she just had a really great life. And but then her family moves to a town called Wonder Lake. It's in Illinois, so I'm guessing it's a suburb of Chicago. Just throwing that out there. I don't know. And so she moves to this new town, and she doesn't know anybody except for a girl named Felicia who used to come to Charleston every summer, and they became friends and they would hang out, whatever. But she hasn't seen Felicia in a couple years. Um, so she's at the beginning, she's initially really excited about going to this new school, and she's like, I'm gonna have this great new life, I'm gonna make all these new friends, and her mom is going to start teaching at this middle school. So, and she's like, I already know somebody, so this is just gonna be fantastic. First day of school gets there, and I mean, of course, everybody has stories about getting lost their first day of middle school. I have mine, even though my middle school is tiny. But they actually make the point in the book that their middle school is it used to be a high school that just became a middle school, so I guess it's probably a lot bigger than your average middle school. So, and all the hallways and stuff are named after random animals. And so it's really confusing, and I don't know why you would be that cruel to a bunch of scary little 11 and 12-year-olds, but this school did. And so she gets there on the first day of school, and she's desperately trying to find Felicia, but Felicia is nowhere to be found. So she has to try to find her classroom, and she is horrified to discover that her mom is also her homeroom teacher. And so she ends up meeting these other 2 girls, Amanda and Ariel, who have been friends since, the 2 of them had been friends since they were kids, and itty bitty kitties, pre-K. And so she kind of, and she becomes really fast friends with Amanda. She's that nice, sweet, normal girl who she's just you could tell that she's a really good friend, a really good person. And I mean, you find out later in the series that she's very artistically inclined, and she has all these things. She's a really good character. And then there's Ariel, who is the stereotypical queen bee, too rich for her own good, spoiled brat. And Tracy and Ariel do not get along at all. So so she kind of is becoming friends. Well, she's not becoming friends with Ariel, but they all start hanging out, and Felicia's kind of there too. But Tracy has come into this thinking, oh yeah, Felicia's going to be my best friend. Everything's going to be great. It's so nice to have my old friend again now that we're going to the same school. But Felicia, the whole time, seems more interested in winning Ariel's approval than paying any attention to Tracy at all. So there's that whole plot line, and there's multiple plot lines running through this novel. It's such a small novel, but there's multiple plot lines, which I think is amazing personally, that Jillian Brooks is able to do that. And so, in addition to this, Ariel and Tracy are both star soccer players, and there's only one spot on the varsity team. Gee, I wonder how that's gonna end. But I'm not gonna spoil it for you. But basically, there is this whole plot line running through the novel of the two of them competing for this spot on the soccer team, and they're both very good. They're both very qualified, even though they're sixth graders. But and then also in addition to that, there's this whole thing of Felicia's dad owns. He has opened up an animal shelter, but he doesn't really have the money or the resources to take care of all these animals that he's taken in. And he tries to apply for a grant, but he gets the grant, but he doesn't get as much money as he wanted. So the four girls decide to have a fundraiser because they're like, oh, save all the animals. And Tracy has fallen in love with this St. Bernard puppy named Lola, but she can't have him because her brother is allergic. So she's desperate to find a good home for this dog named Lola. And so they start planning this fundraiser, but conflict arises when Ariel decides that she wants to have this big start of the school year party, because apparently that happens in books. I don't know, I never went to one, but she wants to have the start of the school year party, whatever. And the only weekend that her parents say that she can do it is the same day as the animal shelter fundraiser. So for a while, there's this whole thing going on of Tracy and Amanda are trying to plan the fundraiser while Ariel is out planning her party. And Felicia has decided that she would rather have Ariel's approval than Tracy's. So she decides that she would rather go to the party and be cool and popular, and she starts dressing really fashionably. And so Tracy's really upset about that because she's like, I kind of thought that you would be my best friend, and instead you're dumping me for this girl who, she doesn't even pretend to like me. So she's really hurt about that. And but I mean, it's a middle grade novel. Eventually, everything kind of works itself out, and everybody becomes friends at the end. And Lola finds a really good home with a friend of theirs that also kind of. It's been rumored that he has a crush on Tracy, so hope the best for them. But I mean, whatever. It's a cute little book. Overall, I think that this book itself, not even just as part of a series, this book itself is a very good book, and I say that with very good book. I mean, it has, like I said, there's all these multiple plot lines running, but they all intertwine really well, and they all come to these really good logical conclusions. The characters solve all their own problems. There's no, adults swooping in to be like, oh yeah, okay, we saved the day. And the characters themselves are very diverse. They're all very distinct. They all have very individual personalities and lifestyles, and it really makes sense that the four of them became friends. It's not just like one of those things where oh, okay, we're starting a new school year, let's all sit at the same lunch table. No, because it's like Ariel and Amanda had been friends forever, and then Tracy becomes friends with Amanda, and then Felicia and Tracy were already friends, so the four of them just kind of become a unit, which is really nice. That nothing really feels forced. later on in the series, if you decide to read this book and then you're like, hey, I mean, this book took me like less than 2 hours to read. It's not, look how thin it is. It's tiny. So, I mean, it's not that big of a time commitment if you want to just, escape into the world of an 11-year-old girl for a while. But, um, but I'll just give you, like, I mean, this review is not about the series, it's about the book. But I'll just give you a little hint into the rest of the series from what I've read. There is a lot of, each book features one or two girls, two different pairs of them all the time, getting in some kind of argument or misunderstanding or competition. And so then, at the end they have to be friends again. And so that's pretty much, that's The New Girl. That's Wondergirls. It's a good series. If you want to find it, I would think that, I don't know, depending on what bookstores you have near you, you might have trouble finding it in a bookstore because they're pretty old books. I don't know if, well, the copyright date on this one is 2002, so maybe they're not as old as I thought. But I don't know, I haven't been able to find them in any bookstores. I found one of them in a used bookstore. But like I said, I bought the rest of them on Amazon where they were a penny each. So, I mean, ask your local bookstore if they have them, but don't, don't count on it. But, so yeah, that's my review, and I will see you guys next time I read a book that I feel like talking about. Have a good week.